listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm semi-supervised one more time. Myra is still recuperating, I guess we could say, from her allergy season that began a little earlier because we're a little further south. So, I get to ramble. That's not exactly true. As people are tuning in, I want to remind everyone that the website's still there. All the good stuff. Be sure, if you like what you hear, the share buttons work, the notification buttons work. Do all those things and make it easier for people to find us. And you have, because I get to statistics and they keep going up, and we really appreciate that. I see she has chimed in from upstairs, so thank you for that. One of the things that I used to begin Give God 90 is a comparison between what our traditions and our legends have us doing and what's really in the Bible. And that is the foundation for Tradition to Truth, One Man's Search for Honest Answers, by the way, the first book that I published. And the reason is some of the things we do actually interfere with our relationship that we have with our Creator as a community and as individuals as well. I want to go to Isaiah. Isaiah records the Almighty chastising his people for changing something very important. They changed the way they worshiped. And this was not a good thing to do. And Isaiah 29 begins in verse 1. Woe to you, O Ariel, the city of Ariel where David camped. Year upon year let your festivals recur. Now, Ariel in this verse refers to Jerusalem. It was the nickname for the city of Jerusalem, also known as the city of Hearth or the Lion of God. Now, we have to be careful because there's nicknames that are used throughout Scripture. There's figures of speech that are used. But in this particular situation, he's speaking woes upon Jerusalem. That's not a good thing. This is where he chose to put his name. So when he says you're doing things that you should be sorry for, that's just not a good thing. The woe for the whole city is brought on because of the way the people had changed the way they practiced their worship. Now, while we often get focused on the inclusion of pagan practices, okay, and that's what a lot of people want to focus on, the reality is people began placing more importance on their traditions that they enjoyed instead of the instructions of the Creator. Now, sometimes we can get far too specific with the instructions as well, right? But not everything they were doing included pagan worship. They simply added to his instructions, or they took some away to replace them with other things. And that sounds kind of a lot like what we do today, doesn't it? If we look at verse 13 of Isaiah 29, we get this warning. Therefore, the Lord said. Now, this is thus saith Jehovah, right? And Christians should recognize this from Mark chapter 7. The people draw near me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is nothing but rules taught by men. I paraphrased that just a little bit to make it clear. In other words, we say, but we don't do. That should be very familiar as well from Matthew 23. Their worship had become nothing more than a man-made religious system. It was filled with traditions, legends, and rules that no longer resembled what the Creator had desired. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Yesterday was Sunday. And I imagine there were a whole lot of people around the world who attended some type of worship service. Did it resemble what the Almighty desires? Let that sink in really, really deep. Or was it filled with traditions? Was it filled with legends? And was it filled by the rules taught by men? Now, some traditions, and I say this not as all-inclusive, but some traditions, some legends, they may seem more enjoyable than what some people might consider a bunch of boring old facts. But when we allow those legends and those traditions more credibility than reality, we lose the accurate record of history. Nowhere is maintaining an accurate record more important than the Bible. When we fail to accurately maintain biblical authority, we risk our relationship with our Creator. If you've read my second book, God's Universe, God's Rules, you will hear that phrase repeated, biblical authority, because that must be the foundation, and it must be accurately maintained. Some people out there are going to say, well, God knows my heart. And yes, He does, absolutely. But I'm going to ask this question. And it's a little complex for some folks. I understand that. Especially if English isn't your first language, the preamble of this question might seem a little confusing to you, but bear with me. If we become so complacent and so arrogant that we believe or we think that our Creator will continue to accept our worship our way, the way we choose to worship, instead of the way He tells us to worship, especially after the warnings we have in the Bible, are we accurately representing Him, or are we representing ourselves? There's close to 43,000 different Christian or Jewish denominations around the world today. 43,000 different ways to worship. Many are similar, many are different. How can believers be of one accord if they're so divided? I've asked that question before. 43,000 different ways that people gather and they worship the Creator of the universe. He tells us there's one way. And His desire is to be worshiped His way. We must be constantly seeking His face, finding His truth, and not become complacent or arrogant, and consider, well, the way we do things, is the right way. The way we do things is the only way. Yeshua, Jesus, tells a Samaritan woman in John 4:23, a time is coming and has now come when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such as these to worship him. You see, when we allow our traditions to become our truth, without question, without questioning them, and worse yet, without any desire to find his truth, we become complacent and arrogant. There's absolutely no way to bow down to the Creator if we refuse to subject ourselves to his instructions. Let me say that again. There's no way that we can bow down to the Creator if we refuse to subject ourselves to his instructions. If we continue to represent ourselves instead of him, who are we worshiping? I had a conversation with someone a few years ago who maintained that their doctrine, the doctrine of their church, was based on the Bible. You know, they refused to even consider the possibility that some of the things they were doing may be in conflict with what's written. I finally kind of got a little fed up. Actually, I got a lot fed up. And I blatantly said, you know, the doctrine of the Satanic Temple is also based on the Bible. Would you consider that doctrine biblical? It, of course, ended the conversation right there. They didn't want to hear that. They were convinced that their way to worship was the only way to worship. I've had this conversation with several people over the years. And each time, it's not their ignorance. It's not the not knowing. It's their arrogance that they refuse to look. They know that what they've been taught is fact. And they refuse to, let me say it this way. They are so arrogant that they won't question the way they practice their faith. And I have used that disclaimer often in many of my messages as I speak to people. I'm not asking you to question your faith. I'm asking you to question the way you practice your faith. I'm not suggesting you stop worshiping the Creator of the universe. What I am suggesting is you worship him the way he chooses to be worshiped. Big, big difference. Okay? If you're simply willing to sit on a church pew and hear the things that make you feel good week after week, but you continue to go out and live a sin-filled lifestyle, you're not seeking the Creator. You've become complacent and self-satisfying. It's that simple. It's that simple. And it doesn't work. You can no longer take the half-truths and make them work for you. It's not going to fly. If you have become that arrogant, you're not worshiping in spirit and truth, you're worshiping in a lie. And I'm being a little bold when I say that. But if you're willing to question the way you are doing things, if you're willing to question how you are approaching your Creator, are you willing to say, do I have this right? David talks about that broken, contrite heart. If you're willing to question the way you practice your faith. If you're willing to wonder, have I blindly accepted the lies that we have inherited from our fathers? There's my third book, right? Inheriting Lies. What lies have we inherited that we never questioned? What lies have we inherited? What half-truths have we inherited that lead us down the wrong path? Now, here's the advertisement. Go buy a copy of these books, read them. Actually, buy 2 copies of these books. You keep one and read it yourself. Give the other one to your pastor, rabbi, whoever, and ask them to read it. If you're honestly seeking a meaningful relationship with your Creator, and you start reading the Bible for yourself, and you start to see there's things in there that may conflict with what you're hearing coming out of a pulpit. There's things in there that may conflict with the things you're doing. There's a chance you may never sit in a church pew again. I'll be that brave to say that. I know that it's happened to people. I've watched it happen. Now, if you happen to be one of my Jewish listeners, you may never be content with your rabbinic traditions again. There are things in the religion of Judaism that are more tradition than they are scriptural. And the rabbis will argue, well, we base it on this verse. Well, sometimes that's true. Sometimes they base it on their interpretation of one word in a verse. The struggle today is getting back to the fundamentals, the foundation of our faith, because it is clouded by tradition. It's clouded by the legends that we have. And that's why I take so much time to clarify the difference, making certain that we dig through the language, the culture, and the history so we're able to figure out where the people we read about in the Bible got it right and where they got it wrong. Their examples are there for our benefit. Our Creator knows how much we love Him by how willing we are to subject ourselves to His authority, not the authority of a church or a pastor or a priest or a rabbi or even me. As much as I sometimes would say, I wouldn't do it that way, I have no authority. I'm simply a messenger. The reality is no pastor, no rabbi, or no person has any authority over you that you do not give them. Only the Creator has complete authority over you, and He's willing to allow your compliance to be voluntary. The choice is yours. Let me say that again. The only one with complete authority over you is your Creator, and He allows your compliance to be voluntary. That choice is yours. You can either suffer the woes of chastisement and punishment, or you can change your lifestyle. You can subject yourself to His authority. You can recover the hope and the life that you may have put in jeopardy. Isaiah 29:17 through 19. In a very short time, will not Lebanon become an orchard, and the orchard seem like a forest? On that day, the deaf will hear the words of the scroll. Need to pause here. What's being said is, on that day, the deaf will hear His instructions. Okay? Out of the deep darkness, the eyes of the blind will see. The humble will increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men will rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. Now the humble are those who seek him with a heart to hear his voice and listen and then follow his instruction. The arrogant will only continue to beg for what they want and attempt to offer advice to him. How many times you have I almost said something I didn't want to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. How many times have you been in a group of people, a group of believers? Maybe it was at a church service, and the prayer that you hear, "Oh Lord, you've got to, you've got to change something. You've either got to heal somebody, you've got to make somebody feel better, you've got to comfort somebody, you've got to," and they go through this list of demands. Some of them aren't even, would you please? It's, you've got to do this because you said so. The arrogant beg for what they want or give advice to the creator of the universe. Their verdict is in Isaiah 29, 20 and 21. For the ruthless will vanish, and mockers will disappear, and all who look to evil will be cut down. Those who indict a man with a word, who ensnare the mediator at the gate, and who with false charges deprive the innocent of justice, they will all be gone, wiped away, spoken by our Creator out of remembrance. Notice how I said that. Didn't say out of existence, out of remembrance. Thankfully, though, Isaiah ends with some hope. Verse 22, therefore, Yehovah, who redeemed Abraham, says of the house of Jacob, no longer will Jacob be ashamed, and no more will his face grow pale. For when he sees his children around him, the works of my hands, thus saith Yehovah, they will honor my name, thus saith Yehovah. They will sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and they will stand in awe of the God of Israel. Then the wayward in spirit will come to understanding, and those who grumble will accept instruction. You see, when you accept the God of Abraham, you become part of that house of Jacob. You find that understanding and you accept his instruction. It's time to walk away from the empty traditions, the useless legends that divide us from each other and from our Creator. It's time to embrace the instructions that lead to life, well, a full and abundant life. It's time to stand in awe of the Holy One, right? When you can honestly come to him questioning, am I getting this right? What do I need to do? Is there more than what is there more than what that evangelist says on TV? Is there something I need to be doing? Do I need to change? Is there something I need to stop doing? Is there something I need to do differently? The answers to those questions are found in the Bible. If you need help understanding those, that's what GiveGod90.com is there for. And you can certainly use that to begin your change. That's why it was developed. That's why it's there. Allowing yourself to Take 90 days making small changes that you are perfectly capable of making every day, changes that you often don't notice, but they are important changes. They're changes that will not only change your life, but the lives of the people around you. And I encourage you to do just that. Make your life better by simply doing nothing more than following the instructions that the Almighty has put out for you. And until Thursday, we wish you many, many blessings, everyone.